any growth hacks into this?
Fresh perspective needs to be presented in a way wherein uniqueness can be seen by the readers.
This is one of the basic things publishers, editors say to creative writers. Show, don't tell.
So I want to shift my career towards writing. So he said, bad idea, bad idea. Personalities sell in India, stories seldom do.
See, you guys can go to your best place, favorite place to write, or you can go to a hill station, you can take a holiday and write. As a journalist, I have no option. I have to write when 50,000 people are screaming at the top of their voice. So with all the distraction, we write. So how do you do it? Like, I mean, you have you have a special place to go to write, or how do you do it? Like?
Today, if a child in this country wants to become an aeronautical engineer, or if he wants to become or he or she wants to become a doctor, or if they want to go in any particular field, even music, we have so many Carnatic and Hindustani classes available in our country now, dance, or any profession of that sort, then there are roads, there are maps, there are structures, there are organizations. But with writing, when you want to be a creative writer, when you want to be an author, what is the way ahead today, practically? How do we create an ecosystem? How do we create an ethos in this country where we can move ahead into writing if we were not taking up freelance projects, if we were not doing other things? Can we stabilize in a career? So from this perspective, Srishti, when I actually started writing my book, and I was understanding the structure of what a book is and how it works, I just touch and feel and going through different books, the back, the body, how it is written, to the expression part of it, the structure part of it, the creativity part of it, the journey of understanding the characters, writing, character sketching. From there, when we finally enter the market, there seems to be a vast jump, because you might find a story very fancy and interesting, but finally when you go to the market, the reader is like, yeah, it's okay, I'll keep it back. So what is it that you have found through the marketing process? What kind of books does India want to read?
See, there is no right and wrong answer to this question. It depends on reader, what they want to consume. And India is the highest consumer of content. But see, it depends on multiple aspects. One of the things which every author needs to understand is every year 4 to 5 million books are being published. You are not the one, you are one of them. And you have to come up with something different what you are providing to the community. Either it's in a form of entertainment or lesson or whatever it is. You have to be unique. And if you are able to showcase that uniqueness to the market, then everyone will consume. So that's one. Writing a book is one part of it. The actual game starts when the book is ready and you are ready to, launch it in the market. So as you have already shared your experience that people have multiple reasons to pick a book from the bookshelf, from the bookstore. One can be a cover. One can be certain elements which they are able to relate. One can be the genre of the book, whether they are interested in crime thriller or they are interested in poetry or non-fiction. These days, more non-fiction books are being consumed more because, everyone wants to, maybe the trend of ikigai, secret, power of subconscious mind, everyone follows international authors. So because of that trend, mostly non-fiction content is consumed more. But fiction content is also being consumed by the readers who are into this genre. But again, you have to showcase them why this is different from everything which is already available in the market. For that, you have to bring in, because it's a solo journey. You are the face of the book. You have to market yourself. Then only, readers will pick the book.
So, Srishi, are people looking for fresh perspectives? Are they looking for fresh stories? Because
Not fresh, unique. I'll say.
Stories. So because
Yeah.
there is a growing demand for folklore, for religious stories, for Ramayan, a lot of these stories are now coming out, and I can see growing demand for it. Like everywhere I see those kind of books lining up, new narratives, the old narratives, but with fresh perspectives or commentary. But at the same time, I mean, this also connects to a very interesting thought that do we need to write something new every time, or can we take an existing story and then add a fresh perspective to it?
Again, that can also work, but fresh perspective needs to be presented in a way wherein uniqueness can be seen by the readers. See, if you are, going for a mythological fiction genre, Ram and Sita, everyone knows their story. But if you add certain new element to it, if you make it a crime fiction, keep if it's related to past, murder, mystery, and all, that's something new which you are adding to the existing mythological part of it. Then yeah, people will be intrigued to read it.
I think Hitesh, this comes to you, which is uh, with cancel culture, with Gen Z, with everything that is happening around us. Our books, like you're one of those few people who know the actual figure, right? So are books going down? Are they going down or are they going up? What is happening?
See, as I previously told also, the books are going up for sure. Okay. And if you look at certain research studies which are available, there's a report on Statista which talks about that Indian book readers are going to be more than 50 crore by 2029. So, and these are the numbers not being quoted by me. These are publicly available numbers. And Statista, as we know, is a globally well-renowned platform to look at market sizing and everything. And even in terms of monetary numbers, the Indian book market is pegged anywhere between 500 billion rupees to 800 billion rupees. Okay. So there's a huge market. Trust me when I speak about it. I mean, since I'm not there as a part of the, not there with the story mirror, so I cannot give exact numbers and figures, but just, yeah, in general, if I have to share the perspectives around here, there's a huge market which is being now catered to, which was earlier not catered to because of the e-commerce platforms. And let's understand from a publisher's point of view, how does it work? Okay. Now, suppose as a publisher, and there is a Chetan Bhagat book, or there's any other author book, for example, and if I have to distribute to the length and breadth of the country, just imagine the number of copies I would need to print, the cost which would go into that, the number of copies which need to be shipped across to all these locations, okay, to distributors, to retailers, to maybe the next level of the chain of the distribution, so which is going through at least 3 4 distribution chains and network, and also then getting back the unsold copies in what state they are. They can be fresh, they can be spoiled, and whatever they are. Now, the same thing right now is direct to customer because of the e-com marketplaces which are there, which has helped a lot of publisher to cut down on the inventory, cut down on the lead time in terms of making the book available to the customer. Okay. And there's a lot of reading which is actually happening in the markets which were not catered to before. Okay. So if I talk about my native place in Bihar, okay, I never saw a good fiction book in any of the shops out there. Okay. But now since Amazon delivers there, I see people who are buying books online on Amazon over there. Okay. So it's a new market which is coming up. It's a new market which is getting built up. And yes, there's a lot of work which needs to be done, because in India, again, if I talk about things on a macro level, the library culture is not so strong as we find in other parts of the world. Okay. I mean, just yesterday, somebody was talking to me about libraries in Mumbai, and then we seriously realized there are only 2 3 good libraries in Mumbai, and that too only in South Mumbai. So if somebody is out there in a suburb like a Thane or a Borivali, they don't have access to good libraries. So if we have to develop this reading culture, so it's easy to say Gen Zs are not reading, but then on a macro level, as a government, and maybe even if I talk about the big publishing houses who have deep pockets, what are you doing in terms of developing that reading culture? Okay, and parallelly, if you look at China, for
Yeah.
example, and there's a lot of work which is, when you mentioned Suraj was there. So, but then again, whatever the research I had done around that in China, they have, I think, adding more than 30 million new readers every year. They are opening thousands of bookstores every year, and here we are talking about where people are Gen Z and other people not reading. I mean, I see a lot of Gen Zs walking around with the books. I see a lot of Gen Zs talking about the book. I think it's about more about incentivizing them. It's more about developing that culture. It's about building a bigger ecosystem which actually can help them to read.
That's absolutely right. In fact, there's a 65% growth in readers when it comes to China, and there are a lot of other countries which have this. In fact, if we just go to Google Trends and search for this, the term books and different genres, the the graph is always going up. But when it comes to India, I saw downward, curve.
And another thing is ki in India also, if you look at the data in terms of the book sales, it's very fragmented. Because when I say fragmented, because if you look at India, what is the things you look at? Number one, you look at Amazon ranks of the books to figure out whether the book is a bestseller or not, or if the book is selling or not. Secondly, you look at AC Nielsen kind of a report to figure out what's the bestsellers which are there. And again, AC Nielsen takes data from only a certain pockets, okay, which I think may not be a true representation of the entire data which goes out. Because in India, if you look at particularly in bigger cities, the kind of books which are being sold on footpath, they are not covered anywhere. Okay, so I'm sure if you talk about a book like A Secret, or if you talk about a book like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a I mean, there are thousands of people who are selling this book on the street. I'm not sure if that data is getting captured somewhere to define the actual reading habit or actual reader data for the country.
Hitesh, what makes a bestseller?
So
What would
I'll borrow someone's answer on this. Okay. So as I said, yes, there is a Amazon data to look at and Amazon bestseller ranks to look at and everything. And I came across this 3-4 years back where a gentleman spoke about in a business conference in Nasik or somewhere. Okay. And he said, when you look at from a physical bookstore perspective, okay, every book is occupying a space in a retailer's space. Okay, and the retailer or the bookstore is going to keep the book which is going to give him the maximum per square feet of revenue. So he was drawing an analogy between how you look at the retail stores like a GeoMart or something like that, where the products are staked in terms of how much revenue you can generate from the sales spaces. And then he said कि the day roadside वाला book वाला roadside पे जो book बेचता है, if he starts selling that book, or if you see this booksellers on the traffic signals, if he's selling a book, that means that is a bestseller.
and what makes
If
that?
you have to look at that perspective.
And what makes that? Like, what is the general recipe? I have a personal interest in this question, and Suraj is also like all ears now. What is the general
So
recipe?
see, it's marketing. So obviously content does play a role. Okay, I'll not deny on that aspect. As you said, creativity also does play a big role in this. But then as in the today's era, we see there are huge number of books getting out there, and because of ease of publishing, which was not there probably 20 years back or 15 years back, because of this ease of publishing which is there today, anybody can be an author, to be really frank. Okay, it's all about one good content which is there in the book. Okay, but again, a good content is not only going to make it a bestseller, because it has to be also about awareness of that book in the market. And as a reader, if I'm not aware about a good book, how I'm gonna buy it? And that's where marketing comes into the picture. Marketing is a must requirement in nowadays for a book to be a success. And it's about how you keep the book always at the top of the mind. As you said, when somebody walked into a bookstore and pick a bookstore, so they would do either one, obviously, when they like the cover, or somewhere I have seen, say, a book on social media. I have seen some reviewer talking about it. I have, say, seen some post popping up in my feed about a book, and then I suddenly see that book in a bookstore. Okay, this is the book I saw. Let me go and check it out. So it's about creating that regular awareness.
I
Okay,
agree.
it's about content. I mean, when you talk about marketing, obviously it envisages both online marketing, offline marketing, social content, and everything around
So, I actually want to take this to Srishti. How do we create
it.
brand recall? Like, what is this? Is I mean, this is gonna be like a juice juiced up podcast to every writer and like, okay, this is the question I want to know, this is the question I want answered. So I'm like just representing all of them. How do we create good brand recall? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? Is it ads? uh, how do we do that?
So actually, it's a mix of everything. Instagram, Facebook, ads, organic and inorganic, influencers. So you have to go all out. So your book should be available in every format, first of all, because you don't know whether the consumer is a ebook reader, physical book reader, audio book reader. First of all, your book should be available in all the formats. Second, it should be visible to everyone. As Hitesh said, reach is the key here. If someone knows about the book, if they like the book, then only they'll be able to buy the book. I'm sure Suraj has done 3 or 4 years of research. Finally, he came up with the quality content. But until someone knows about his story and about his book, no one is going to buy the book. So you have to, give that angle. You have to come with the marketing. So you can call it authorpreneurship. It's a different kind of an entrepreneurship wherein book is your product and you have to sell it in the market. You have to come up with the strategies. You have to build a team and you have to go all out. So Instagram is one way if you're talking about a fiction book, or LinkedIn can be one way if you're talking about non-fiction book. You have to, while writing a book, authors knows कि उन्होंने किस target audience के लिए लिखा है, for which particular segment of the audience he want to target while writing. The way of writing, who will be able to relate them more. Then जो भी target audience है, mark them. Then figure out the ways how you can reach out to them, whether it's book reading sessions, book launch sessions, having influencers, giving a face to the book, doing multiple engagement sessions, reading sessions, etc., etc. Then only you will able to reach out to the masses, and then only people will be purchasing the book in the market. So
Srishti,
there is no fixed formula. Yeah.
have you
Sorry.
come across any growth hacks? Have you come across any growth hacks into this? Since I'm somebody like who did a pan India across South India, across main metropolitan cities, and I went to many events, open mics, colleges, schools, and that was for the podcast. But I always also talked about the book. Most of the times, if it's not a college or school, and I even went to tuition centers, and most of these places, people always have that attitude कि हाँ मतलब what is it about podcast, okay, book, क्या, what is the book about, okay, this is the book, okay, yeah, we will see that excitement, right? Like I'm saying, practically that excitement, oh wow, that's an Apple phone. That's a new Apple, oh there's a new Samsung coming out. So I know that I'm being too idealistic if I say that we can reach there one day where a new book coming out, probably Harry Potter would do that, but I'm saying in India, a new book coming out would create that excitement. Oh, there's a new book coming out. I would love to read this. So how do we do that? What is the growth hack there? If a young writer was listening to this and he would be like, okay, maybe this. So what would be that according to you?
Tough question, actually. Not every strategy works for every similar kind of books as well. Growth hack can be, you need to be that exciting, right?
Right.
Excitement should be you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So अगर आप excited हैं, if you are excited enough about your book, you will always present your book with a smiling face, with a lot of excitement, so that it will automatically generate curiosity among the people who are listening to you.
So you're saying the key is brand. If you're able to
Yes.
build your personal brand, then your book will sell.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
but-
you are the face of the book.
Yeah.
Hitesh?
No, sorry, I just coming to that sentence because I mean, if you ask me, one hack is all about the author himself. Okay,
Yeah.
Author is the face of the book. If I'm gonna read the cover of the book, is the author whose name I'm gonna look at. Okay, so and a lot of readers are actually interested in author's life. I mean, they want to know more about the author. They want to know who is the author and everything. And as an author, you have to be really, really active in terms of reaching out to the readers. Can be online, can be offline again. You have to really be available out there, create that again, branding of yours. Again, here it's a mix of different branding where we are talking about. If it's a depending on the genre again. If it's a non-fiction, it will be a very different kind of branding and we are talking about. And if it's a romance genre book, it will be a very different kind of branding we are talking about. But then, yes, if you ask me one key factor, which is maybe I'll not say sure shot, but then yeah, very big factor in success of a book. It's It's an author branding. And I always used to tell authors that whenever we used to sign an agreement for the book, that till the time the book is going to be out there in the market, use this time to build your brand.
Also, since
But
you're somebody who's reviewed a lot of books and you worked with a lot of writers and authors, what is good content according to you? What appeals to you generally?
So whatever readers are reading, that's a good content for me. From a
Oh,
marketing perspective, that's
right, right. And Hitesh, when it comes to you, what is good content that appeals to you personally?
No, so I mean, again, it's a very subjective, I'll say, in terms of, it doesn't make sense if I'm going to talk about what's a good content for me as a reader individually. But then, yeah, as Srishti said, and India right now, if you look at, there's a market for every genre. It's not that any genre is not selling. Yes, there are flavors of the in the market, because there's a lot of interest right now in the Indian knowledge system, Indian mythological content. So there's a flavor of the season, I will say. But then in general, again, the kind of market we have as a country is, it can be any genre, but then yeah, content has to be. It cannot be you can write some gibberish and go out and expect your book to be a bestseller.
Right. So actually, I asked that question from the space that where we, uh, for somebody who's just read a couple of books, when they go and they pick up a book and they open page number 72 and they read a page, they're like, ah, okay, this is good, but I won't buy it. Probably I can go later and Google about it and then see what I can do. But for you, somebody who's gone through so many books and writers, from your that's valuable. That what would be good content? What book do you pick up, and when you open the middle page, what do you see where this is good content? This is something I can bet on.
I mean, see, idealistically, it has to be a page turner, as simple as that. So if I'm reading, I'm just randomly opening a page, and if I like that page and I would want to turn the page to read the next page, the reader is going to pick that book. Okay, so it has to be a page turner in literal sense, where, and as you rightly said, a lot of readers actually follow this process where it's not about reading the back content or looking at the cover. Randomly open a page, read the content. If you can engage the reader with those, say, 20-30 lines on the page, and make him curious to maybe turn and read the next page, it's a good content. They are going to buy the book.
It's a book that is
Bharat?
engaging. It can make curious. Yeah, Mr. Vijay. I was just about to come to you with the same question. Yeah.
No, no. It's very nice what Hitesh and Srishti are explaining. I just want to see this from the sports perspective. So, as a publisher, are you seeing a growth in books on sports, or is it stagnant?
So again, I mean, again, I'll not have right data to talk about that right now, but then yeah, in terms of the perception, if I talk about one, there is always an interest in the autobiographies, okay, where
Yeah.
people would want to read or know about the life of the sports people, okay, sports person, and this is across different sports. Secondly, with increased interest in the different sports right now beyond cricket, I mean, if you look at last, say, 10 to 15 years, there has been increased interest in sports like tennis or a badminton, or even, I mean, a lot of people in India have started following Formula One. So if they get content to read on something similar as a genre, I see that people are picking up.
But what I mean to say is, apart from biographies, autobiographies, and travelogues, I don't see any not non-fiction, any any sports book based on sports background and making it a fictional story, like what Lagan was many years ago. So nobody has tried this, or have you come across somebody
No,
making
no,
an
we
attempt at it?
had come across, and at Story Mirror, we had published similar books where there was sports as a background. If I recall, there was a book which had boxing as a background. There was a book which had football as a background, tennis as a background. So we had come across these books. Okay, so it's not that people are not writing this as a genre, but then yeah, there are not very success stories of these books in terms of where I'll say there is an adaptation going on. For example, besides Lagan, we had an example of Chak De and lot of other movies which are based on the sports right now. But then yeah, in the book space, hardly have come across a book which has been really big success based on this genre.
So
No, I
actually,
mean, are you not surprised? I'm sorry.
yeah,
Can
sure.
I go ahead?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I'm just curious, Hitesh, given the size and the scope of cricket, as a global sport and with IPL coming in, a lot of money pouring in, are you not surprised that not many more books are coming up on sports, particularly cricket?
I'm not surprised because again, recently we actually did a book on cricket as well, and that was
Game
a collection
changers.
of articles. It's called Game Changer. It was a collection of articles
Oh,
authored by Mr. Ayaz Mehman also. But then, in terms of a
by the
fictional
way, by
book,
the way, by the way, I'll just interrupt. Ayaz Memon was my first sports editor. I worked under him
oh, wow.
in Independent and Indian Post. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then, yeah, in terms of fictional books which are based on sports, there are hardly any books which are coming in if I look at the market right now. But yeah, it's a bit surprising because given the interest of the but then again, I mean, if you look at people loving cricket as a sports, would they love it as a as a content to read? It's very difficult to match that through.
Actually, to be honest,
And
I was just leading there to the next question because a couple of years ago, when I actually thought that, okay, let's change, I want to shift to full time writing, I'd called a person I know. He runs Cambridge Publishing House. So I'd called him and I told him that, sir, I'm looking forward to doing this. I want to shift my career towards writing. So he said, bad idea, bad idea. So I said, why, sir? I was really enthused about this. I was so motivated. I want to be a full time writer. He said, no, see, right now, so basically it was a long conversation, but the conclusion was, he said, personalities sell in India, stories seldom do. Personalities sell. Right? So I think that's also sums up a lot of other things which are happening. That's why I was really trying to crack down this question: what is good content? So it's just about to come to you, Mr. Vijay, about that. From an that is sports selling, is the marketing happening? And I've heard many variations of this question: is fiction working? Is the story working? Is non-fiction working? So it all comes down to the same space. All the writers, all the authors, comes down to the same space. What is good content according to? So I'll go to Mr. Vijay. What is good content according to you?
are you asking me about sports or
In general,
in
if you
general?
open a book and you turn to page number 72, which book would you
I
continue
think
reading?
for me, good content is which raises my curiosity.
Hmm.
Anything which raises my curiosity and it makes me, get involved in reading, not just reading, enjoying the reading process. That if it disturbs my imagination, I think the content is very good, and it should keep me engaged. It can be anything, not only on sports, on film, entertainment, cinema, anything. So for me, content is something which should raise your curiosity and get you involved in that book. That is the most important thing, according to me.
Is it value or is it storytelling method or is it the story or is it the narrative? What would
Everything,
it? Everything.
everything. Yes. You can't say just one thing will, engage you or one thing will make a content good. It's the sum of all that. Only then the content will be a hit among the readers.
And Mr. Vijay, I also wanted to ask, how for the young reader, for the young writer who's listening to this right now, how do you stabilize a career in writing? If you want to be an author on the side and you want to still have a full-time career as a writer, what is the way to stabilizing a career?
I'll be brutally honest. I won't suggest anybody to take up writing full time.
I hear that a
Not,
lot.
not, not,
I hear that a lot. Right.
Because just before I came online, I was talking to my friend, my classmate. His name is Nandan. He's a former Ranji Trophy cricketer. He's played more than 50 matches for Karnataka. So we're just talking about it, and he called me to invite his son for his son's wedding. So I asked him, "How come you didn't let your children take up cricket?" He said that's the first thing he told them, not to take up cricket, because you've seen the inside process of it, like what happens there and the element of luck involved in it, and so many other things we explained. So writing as a career, I doubt very much. At least I told my two daughters, not you. I asked them to read as much as possible, and not writing as a career. So present scenario is such. As a freelancer, it's very difficult to survive. It's almost impossible.
There was this person who was working with me on the podcast, and she was working in content research for the longest time. Very talented person. I usually take graduates, but what happened is in the interview she said she's just 16. So she said that on the basis of age, how can you say that you cannot take me? So that's how she got selected for that particular role, and she was doing content research and she wrote stories, and she's a very, very talented person. So recently, like just a couple of months ago, she called and she said, "Sir, I'm really sorry to say this, that we were planning on working on her first book and I wanted to help her with all of that." She said, I just cannot do this because my family would
Oh.
just not allow me to do this, because they don't think that this is a good career option. So Suraj, this is
It's
going to
sad,
you. Yeah.
it's sad, but it's very true.
Suraj, this is going to you. Since you come from this space, and you and me are in this space right now, where we are trying to crack this down. So the fight is on, right? And here's the bold question: when I started out 3 years ago, I didn't find any good training centers. In my experience, any good training centers for creative writing. I found Hindustani, classical. I found dance centers, Shamak Davar, everything. Creative writing, book writing, I couldn't find anything. I found I'm really happy to have platforms like Story Mirror or this Pratilipi, where there was expression of creative writing available online. But apart from that, even when it comes to listing of talent, where you can find these books and opportunities, I couldn't find anything much. This is the reality we're dealing with. How are you tackling it, and do you think what is the way to stabilizing a career as a writer?
It's like I have to sum up my 14-year journey in this. I agree with Vijay sir um, in bits from my own experience when I was only focused on just writing my book or thinking that, oh, I can earn money from this or I can think about this. It's a very long process. I remember I was talking to an book agent in 2016 or 2017. So he just gave me a graph. Ki, are you doing something on the side or are you doing something mainly and this should be your side because supposedly I sign you right now. I take this book on. Okay, I contact every publishing house in my list. There is going to be a long time. There will be 3 rounds of edits for the book. Then there will be a cover launch or something, announcement. Then, like, further marketing. Then it gets released. Then there is, post-release marketing and everything. It's going to be a long time till you see any money from it. So unless you're well off and unless you're balanced that way, you should not be looking at ki, this is my primary source of income. At least 4 books down the line. That's how he told me the number. Ki, ha. And there is this very good line that he told me. I've never had a writing mentor, but he helped me in just those 4 hours. Every person on the planet can write one book based on their story, based on their experience, and only a writer can write two. So unless you're writing more than one book or you know his line was अगर सिर्फ शौक है ठीक है मैं शौक की तरह like I'll help you out. If this is a passion or if you're wanting to make a career out of it, then be doing something and be doing something related to writing all the time. That's when I got back to marketing. I was in content marketing as in blogs and all that. Then I got to creative marketing. Right now I'm working with an ad agency in Dubai. So we are into videos all the time. It's ads, like, like you've told in my introduction, I'm also working on the web series format. I was a purist for a time ki I'll only focus on books. That was the sort of the worst phase of my career because the creativity just wasn't there. Right now, I have 20 different ideas for books because I'm working with marketing people. I'm having so many ideas on videos. And I'll tell you something of a brutal honesty as an experience. Last year, I was in Mumbai when I was, going through the whole process of converting my book into a web series and just going through the hassles. And it was a bit difficult to see that they were only focused on the story, on how it can be translated to web series and not focused on the book at all. Okay. The book was converted into that's called a Bible. Like, you pick up the story and then how it translates to screen and everything. Even my friends, when they read the book, they were like, "Ki, this would look very good on the screen." There is a large part of the audience which is like, oh, I like this book. I want to know how it looks on the screen. Being okay with it and now thinking of the screen, thinking of how I can present ideas that way, it has helped me crack better. As a writer, we are told ki show don't tell. This is one of the basic things publishers, editors say to creative writers, show, don't tell. You can't just write the story in your mind and say, like, I am not able to see it until you show me. So being that comfortable in multiple formats has helped me much more. My second book is coming along much faster. I've made contacts. I've like, even reading it, I can know simultaneously, okay, how it will look on the screen. So that's how you make the career. If you're stubborn about it, take a step back, become more of an umbrella. Like I, I, I'm being brutally honest. I tell this to, youngsters coming to me, ki we are into creative writing. I'm like, that's good. Huh? Just don't focus on the author aspect of it. Become a storyteller. Become a storyteller. Go into any format. Like, if you can write a book, you can write a script, you can write ads, you can create reels, you can create YouTube videos. I am working with graphic artists to create a, like, graphic novella for the book and a YouTube channel. So once you develop that acumen, na, oh, okay, I'm consistently into telling a story, creating a story in my mind with my words and everything. It will help out in the career, in the finances, in the storytelling, every format.
So I'll just add here again, if you allow
Yeah,
me.
sure.
Uh, what Suraj actually was talking is a very, very important point which writers need to note here. Okay, if you look at as the market that we are in, or the ecosystem we are in right now, in the digital age we are in right now, actually I don't think it would have been any better time than writing as a career. And when I say this, I say writer as a overall career and not just author focused. Let's say author is a subset of being a writer. Okay, and with so many different type of content requirement out there, trust me, there is dearth of good content writers. Okay, so writing as a career, if you are, as Suraj said, open to ready to open your umbrella, don't just focus, okay, I'll just write a blog content, okay, or I'll just write a content for social media. If you're restricting your writing to a specific format, you may face challenge. Okay, or if you're like, okay, I'll just be an author and just see how I can earn money from my book. But then if you're open to experiment with your writing style, with your writing formats, with the different formats of writing, and I'll say conversion of that written content to some other format, as Suraj said, it can be a reel, it can, I mean, so many people are creating reels, unko bhi to content chahiye, na? Not necessary everybody who are, I mean, those people we see on social media with millions of followers who put these reels, not necessarily they are the ones who are writing the content out there. Okay, so you might be somebody who might be great at creating a content which can get into a reel. You might not be good enough to maybe act on it, or maybe a good video designer who can give that content a good shape. So there is still a huge requirement of content writers out there, and writing in general right now, probably there was no better time in the past than right now, if I say, for the writers.
Actually, I would add to that. Content writing, when it comes to particularly content writing, even as Mr. Vijay said, I would agree to that more. For freelance, it the ability that a creative writer has who's written a book, it doesn't justify when it comes to content writing, because the kind of results that content writing clients are looking for is created using AI also, or it can AI content can be modified in a couple of minutes to create satisfactory results. The ability to write creative writing content is like a book actually, or a good story. That ability is something that a book writer has. So then the writer, I'm speaking from a writer perspective, the writer feels unsatisfied. I don't know if Suraj you agree to what I'm saying. So that is why over a period of time you find it difficult to sustain in the freelance market, because the projects are lesser for what is satisfying you. Otherwise, there are like a sea of projects. As Hitesh would have said, I totally agree. There's an ocean of projects. But what satisfies you as a writer would be very few, and those clients you will pick along the way. So even for me, I'm doing podcast, or now I'm coming up with the first book, but the income comes from digital marketing or marketing strategy. I work with many brands in Bangalore as a marketing strategist. It comes from there. So I think this is everything is being put out here as a naked truth, and that's the whole joy of a podcast, and that's why I am also like sharing my personal stuff. The income actually doesn't come from the book source or from the podcast source, and I think Suraj gave out a number. His friend said 4 books and a success. I think there's nobody better to answer this than Hitesh right now. So Is that a figure that we can count on? 4 books and a success?
Again, as I said, it can be your first book, it can be your third book, it can be your seventh book. Not necessary that can be a fixed number. Because a lot of authors in the recent past also, if you look at, for example, if we talk about The Hidden Hindu, it was the first book, I guess, right? But
Yeah.
then it was Akshat's first book, but then huge success. So it cannot be a specific number to this. It's all about how much effort you're putting behind, whether it's your first book or the second book or the fourth book. But yeah, I always tell the authors, put your best effort, best foot forward for the first book, because that's your first baby. Okay, and as much as you love your first baby, probably you will not love the second, the third, or the fourth. Okay, and maybe if your first book is not success, somewhere that disappointment, that discouragement comes within, right? I mean, for example, as I spoke earlier about the CA exam. So first attempt when we give a CA exam, we are like full on, and we are probably at our best enthusiasm when we are giving our first attempt. As we start the number of attempts, suddenly that slightly goes down. It's not that people don't clear CA in the third attempt or the fifth attempt or the seventh attempt. So here again, the probability is much higher if you're putting your best effort in your first book of a success, but it can be your third book also, it can be your fifth book also. You never know which resonates with the author. It's all about, see, ultimately, a book becoming a success is nothing but word of mouth. How many people have picked up the book and they start talking about the book, okay? And that's when people get to know about the book. It's not key. If the word of mouth is not coming, then the book is not going to reach to masses. That is for sure. So you never know which content, which story is going to resonate with the readers, where they start talking about it between their reading circle, between their friend circle, and then more and more people start picking that book. So again, no fixed number, can be your first book, can be your third book, but then if you are really really sure कि नहीं मेरे को author, successful author बनना है, जैसे मुझे CA अगर बनना है, so keep putting your effort, keep putting your effort. Maybe second book, third book, don't get disheartened. One of the book, if you are true to yourself, if you have put effort in marketing, if you have put effort in book creation process, the success will come.
So actually, I think this connects to Srishti from the marketing perspective. The journey of writing a story, right? It's very personal. It's like something that happens between you and a friend, right? So you have a conversation one particular evening, and you head back home, and you talk about how your day was, and they say something, and then you have a realization, oh, life is like this. This is the journey. It's very random. I knew a person who, my mom once talked about. She came home and she said, "Arey, tumhe pata hai kya hua? There's this person I know. He is like he's a very far off family friend, and he's terminally ill and he's not doing well, and he's going through a really rough time, and now everybody's blaming him because this is a really bizarre story where he's trying to get his wife married because he would be now he's no more, but so when I was writing the book, it struck me that, my God, what is this? Because this person is now going through extreme anxiety at that point of time, and he's calling random people and he's trying to arrange marriage. So to me, that journey was so interesting. It was so interesting. I started researching about that, and that book is there. I mean, that story is there in my book, of the story of Kishore, of what happens in his life, and the arranged marriage setting where the groom enters, where the boy enters, and the husband is sitting right next to and trying to arrange the whole marriage. So the journey of writing a story is always so personal. It's so intimate, right? It is something when you come across something very beautiful and then you write story. But the market is harsh. Market is
Yeah.
harsh. It doesn't care if you have an intimate experience writing a story or if you've done that way. When a writer is working on his craft, is working on his story, Srishti, according to you, what should he keep in his mind, he or she keep in their mind, so that they meet the market also? Thoda mera bhi, thoda tumhara bhi. It's like that.
Yeah. See, every writer is emotional for their book, their content, because they are writing from their heart. So you have to be a mix of both emotional as well as practical, because again, market is harsh. At times they don't see that struggle of writing behind the book. So for them, it's another product. For them, it's another book which they are going to read. So you have to be practical enough to understand that. So while writing a book, you have to, write down your emotions. But while wearing a marketeer cap, you have to be, you have to understand the reader's aspect also.
And what kind of genres have you seen skyrocket like that?
Again, there is no fixed genre. It depends what, actually readers are consuming, picking up from the shelf. It can be fiction, it can be non-fiction, it can be a new kind of way wherein it's a fictional non-fiction book. Through stories, you are giving advices or guidance to the readers. So it can be anything. If a
Bharat,
poetry book can become a bestseller, जिसका market comparatively सबसे niche होता है, then anything can sell in the market.
Right. So is having a niche market the key, that you're very clear about who your target is? Is that the key?
Yes and no, depends actually. See, if your niche audience is something which cannot be expanded, there are very limited numbers. What will you do once they have bought the book?
Right. So actually, I
So
want
it
to.
cannot be niche, but yeah, having something niche to a set of audience like a teenage or school. If you're targeting only school teenage readers, then it will be easier for you also to define the marketing strategy for the book.
So I wanted to.
Bharat,
Yeah, Mr. Vijay.
you have picked enough brains now. Can I pick your brain?
Of course, go for it.
Yeah, see, I'm very curious about a writer's time management. See, as a journalist, I've lived my life on time deadlines. 40 years I have dealt with different deadlines. So as a writer, how do you manage your time? I mean, asking the same question to Suraj also, because for me, I have to give a report 45 minutes after the match gets over. So I work under a very strict deadline. How do you guys manage this?
Can I answer that first, Suraj? The truth is, we don't. Because the answer to that question is that, see, I think the thing is, it's about absolute pursuit of the story versus compromising because of time. And I don't know if Suraj you agree, but this is what in my life it has come down to this. If you have an absolute pursuit of story, absolute pursuit, like there's a story of a pehelwan, and for this I went to the akhada in Bangalore, and I talked to the pehelwan there, and I saw how it happens. I went to Hosur Road and I saw the mud, and I actually felt, I understood. I interviewed fighters across different. I went on Zoom calls. I understood the psychology, like how their mind works. They have this harsh look. They have a very strong interior. When they talk to you, they have a very strict way of speaking, and they're very aware of, and their mind is entirely working on basis of control. Either I control you or you control me. Even on a psychological level, it goes down to that. So understanding that depth, if you have, there's a story in my book where there's a hill climbing scene. I went and climbed a hill without ropes. It's crazy, but the experience, I went on top of the mountain and I wrote the part, because the experience, the thrill, the kick is what juices out into the story. So either it is the absolute pursuit of story where you cannot keep time in mind, because then it is about the passion and the love and you just do it for the story, or you have to compromise because of time, that you have a deadline and you've kept it that every year or 2 years you need a new book coming out. So you need to compromise on the pursuit of the story, the passion and pursuit of the story, and you say, okay, it's fine, it's a deadline I kept, so I need to go for it. But I would love to hear Suraj's answer on that.
It's a mixture of both, but I'll, sir, I'll agree with more of your experience that uh, IPL has just finished and my agency was creating a lot of ads for IPL. So, and I've seen that having a deadline has helped me. Working in a setup where there is a deadline, like you said, after a match finishes, 45 minutes after that, you have to present it. And once you have, from an earlier point, once you have given that much time to your craft so that, you know that the words will flow. And there is a setup that will help you get the words out in a better way. Or they can tell, yeah, Vijay, इस पे कुछ better हो सकता है क्या? Or have you missed that moment? The same helped me with the book. whether it was a publisher, whether it was a friend, whether it was an agent. Like, if there is something like, okay, if I'm working with Hitesh sir and they say ki, I need a new book in 6 months, and this is how we are going to structure it. Get me the first three chapters at the end of June. So that's a deadline in my mind. I had to focus on the next three chapters till the end of June, and I have to do whatever I can to get the story up. For me, that helps me a lot. Instead, when there is an no deadline, nothing, oh, there is an infinity in front of me, na, then the self-discipline becomes a bit distracting. I can say this from personal experience. Writers are the best procrastinators. हम जितना चाहे मर्जी बहुत अच्छे से डिले कर सकते हैं. So deadlines help me. There's someone sitting on my head, and someone who is I'll all I'm forgetting the name, but there was a very famous author who said, "Be with people who are compassionate on writers as a whole thing, so that they recognize that you're creating something out of nothing. Any idea goes through the head of a writer first. So if they're compassionate with you and help you out, refine your idea better. I'm seeing Hitesh sir or Srishti, Vijay sir, you're an editor who has helped, Bharat. So having that team who are compassionate with you, okay, this can be better. Just go back and do it again. And having that firm hand key, hey, I need this in this time. That helps. And that has helped me create a lot of content. Yeah.
Okay, and the next question is obvious. See, you guys can go to your best place, favorite place to ride, or you can go to hill station, you can take a holiday and ride. As a journalist, I have no option. I have to ride when 50,000 people are screaming at the top of their voice. So with all the distraction, we ride. So how do you do it? Like, I mean, you have I mean, you have a special place to go to ride, or how do you do it? Like,
So this helped me, just the working in the marketing business has helped me to write anytime. Like the experience that you have, mine has been similar. I've worked in airport cafes, I've worked in restaurants, so many Starbucks all over the country. I can't tell you. I've just sat around with people and just worked. कि deadline है, पूरा करना ही है. So I'll just say कि it's the act of getting into it. My father is a cloth merchant. So I know for a fact that if I wake him up from sleep and ask him na ki taffeta and lazy busy ka rate kya hai, and you have to sell it, he'll just start muttering the words and everything. So that's his craft. Where the craft changes is कि TG क्या है, target group क्या है, उस पे okay, if I have to sell it to a lady, that's different. If I have to sell it to a wholesaler, that's different. And that's what we do, sir. Like, all that preparation is that when it comes to it, we can just mold our words according to the target group, according to the story and everything. Otherwise, you have to train yourself long enough and hard enough that words come out. Doesn't matter how, but they come out. Because now we are fighting AI as well.
okay, yeah, that's
Chat
right.
GPT can give it in 3 minutes. So we are fighting that.
I think this turns into craft versus art. And also, before that, I'll answer Mr. Vijay's question also. It is, I think, I can't agree to Suraj more. It is about getting into the zone because cafes, airports, and hilltops, or okay, your I mean, the office where you go to every day and you sit in front of a desk. If you know how to just flow out, that flow where your hands just go and you're just typing or writing, that flow comes, then over a period of time, it doesn't matter what the environment is because you're flowing anyway. And once you're in the flow, then nobody can stop you. Somebody's going to tap you and you'll just move away because you're in the flow, right, Suraj? But I think I have a counter to Suraj here. Now this podcast is getting really juicy. This is where it gets interesting to me. See, there's this line on, in my company website, Bangalore Editorial, which is, I'll give you the whole secret to short story writing. Here it is. Rule number one: write stories that please yourself. There is no rule number two. Oh, Henry. This is something I really believe in. Really believe in. Until the story pleases you, like it pierces through your heart. Don't put it on paper. It's something I believe in. And no matter how much time it takes. So, for example, the story that I talked about, right, the Kishore story, I mean, there was a man who was trying to arrange a marriage for his wife, and that no matter how many months I spent, because there were many short stories, I was working on them alternatively. Uh, the the most beautiful ending for that story is something that I came across randomly, where I was in Bannerghatta National Park, and there was this tree which was cut off from its root, and it was suspended on two other trees, and it was totally alive. It had fresh leaves, it had fresh everything, and we tried to see if it's how it's alive. It doesn't make any kind of sense. We never went back there. But that perspective of something being independent to this extent and being alive gave a breath of fresh air to my story. So I could have never thought and arrived at it, but it just happened, right? And I'm somebody who believes in this as art, the art space where it just flows, the Confucius flow state and the creativity and all that part. So craft, yes, craft is methodical. Like when you have craft at your hand, you write, and you spend a lot of time in creative writing, descriptive writing, different kinds of styles. It starts flowing from you. So then when it comes to time versus creativity, right, this is what I said earlier. How do we do that? It's true, I agree to you, the pressure does work, but if it doesn't please the heart, then what?
Hitesh?
Yeah.
Hitesh, how do you see? I'm a very lazy writer, unless I have a deadline. So, how do you tackle these lazy writers? Like, I mean, you really have to cajole them and be after them, or how do you do it?
No, so for us, and particularly if you look at the self-publishing or the habit publishing industry, it's the writer who bears the cost of publishing. So they already have their commercial interest in getting the book out as soon as possible. So and right now, most of the books being published under a self-publishing or a hybrid model, I think writers themselves have timeline to get it out as soon as possible. But yeah, there are writers who are quite perfectionist. Worked with such writers where we even took more than a year to take out the book in the market after writer has completed writing the book, because a lot of iterations happening in the book and writer was a perfectionist. So as everybody was mentioning, it's always a trade-off between time and creativity. Okay. And particularly when you think that a book is a really great book to quote in the market, probably we also are patient with it. Okay, let's try to put the best product in the market and not rush into it. But then right now, yes, I mean, most of the writers are self-driven because there are commercial interest for them, and if that
Interesting.
answers it.
So Bharat himself is one of them.
I was
Because
just about to come to that.
Last last year, February, we started the discussion around your book, and still it's not out in the market. Yeah.
You know, not
why
late. That ending to that book came late. That's what I was saying.
why I raise this question, Bharat? See, but suppose in my case, what happens is, suppose you're covering a match in India, you're working Indian Standard Time. Suppose I'm covering something in Australia. After the match, I can go to sleep, get up 5 hours later, and still meet my deadline.
Right.
So you have to different ways of doing it. But for me, the moment the match gets over, I have to get it out of my heart. If I delay it, procrastination, you try to think too much and spoil the whole copy. So my way is to just get it out of my heart as soon as possible, even though I have 11 hours deadline looming ahead of me. Like, so that is why, I was very curious how you writers do it like.
So I think
So I
that's
think
it's a perfect match. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
no, I'm just adding that as writers, particularly if I'm talking about the authors here, not content writers, but then from the book writing perspective, I mean, once you get into that habit or discipline of writing, somewhere they develop a timeline. They start understanding better okay, what is the best time of the day for them when their creative juices are like flowing to the fullest. So for somebody it can be waking up 3 in the morning and writing it down. For somebody it can be 12 in the night. For somebody it can be in the afternoon. So different. I mean, I think a lot of writers do develop that understanding when they are at their best in terms of creative work.
Right.
And I think you are comparing two different kind of content, writing a book and journalism. See,
Yeah,
if the
right.
match is over, people would like to read immediately about it. And if you are, taking the article out after a week or a month, it will be of no use. But you can actually delay the book launch.
Yeah, also I think it's relevance versus style. So when it comes to news articles, it's more about relevance of the subject. But when it comes to today a Sherlock Holmes, I can read it 100 times because it's a style. It's a style of writing which just, as Mr. Vijay said earlier, also which just grabs you in by the hand, pulls you in. That read the book. So, but yeah, I think I'll go back to Suraj for that answer. Yeah, time versus creativity.
Yeah. So when it comes to like, I'll just say the number of words that is in a content. Okay, if this is a reel, if it's a 1 minute reel, I know that I have written a script along with the description of what I want in 400 words. My book that came out, it was 81,000 words. So that's how I do it. If there is a long form, there are so many words. So of course I have to understand that it will take it time to get it right. And that's where other people get in. Having fresh set of eyes again and again, different set of eyes. I worked with two different editors, while they were editing the book, and they had their own point of views. Oh, I'm not able to visualize this scene. Or do you think this act there, because it was a non-fiction book, there was actually discussions of, do you think this scene will be very controversial? This story would be very controversial, and so that's where you bring other heads in to see, as like I'm saying, fresh eyes, that what I'm reading, am I able to experience it? Am I liking the experience? Whether it's for a movie or something, that goes the way for the book. There is test audience, right? People have actually changed their movie endings based on what the test audiences have said. I'm like Will Smith's I Am Legend. If anyone has seen it, the whole last 30 minutes of the movie was reshot and changed just because the audience said that he shouldn't survive, he should die. So for a long form content, uh, I can be as fast as I want, but if it's not getting to my readers, or even to my test audience, to my friends, then I have to work on it. And that's okay, because that input helps me get on a new, like, it's not like I'm going back to square one. I'm on square 13. I'm just restarting the draft, and that helps me. When it's short form, whether it's a reel or something, I know ki in half hour I'll know just by the number of likes it gets on that Instagram page of my client. I'll know. So that's all the review you need. The more the words, the longer time I'm willing to give it to get it right. That's just the way I.
So the thing is that I actually wanted to take this to Mr. Hitesh. Is this is this is also where the traditional versus self-publishing model comes in also, right? So I had heard that I think it was not Chetan Bhagat. I think it was one of the writers. Yeah, they had started. In fact, a lot of successful writers today had started with self-publishing. That they had put a lot of time and effort into their first book. Amish Tripathi. Yes, exactly. That's right. Right. So, how does this model help the young writer, and what does this have to offer that you know the traditional publishing model doesn't?
So, I mean, if you look at the traditional versus self-publishing as a model, okay, the biggest reason why self-publishing emerged was because of the entry barriers at traditional publishing. Because if you look at traditional publisher, most of them have their fixed quota of books they would publish every year. Okay, so for example, XYZ Publishing House will publish say 200 titles a year. Okay, so what happens to next 500, next 1,000, next 10,000 writers who want to publish their book? And that was the biggest reason I think why the self-publishing industry came in. And I really appreciate, because this has helped a lot of good content to come out in the market. And I always draw a parallel between a movie industry and the book publishing industry. Because if you look at again the big production houses, the Chopras, the Johars, and everyone, and the newbies were not getting a chance, and that's where the smaller films started to come, actors like Rajkumar Rao or actors like Ayushmann Khurrana, they were never as a first choice in the mainstream cinema. But then because they came out with the stories which were good, they came out with the content which was good, the movies did well, and they also become as big stars as probably anybody else. So similarly here, I think the self-publishing industry is doing the same work, which is to still identify the good writers, which probably could not get a chance from the traditional publishing houses, but still had a good content. And we have seen not just Amish Tripathi. I think there are tons of authors who had published their first book with self-publishing, and those books had gone to become bestsellers. So I think it's a great uh, chance to the new authors. And I frankly advise new authors not to wait for traditional publishers, because it's a huge waiting game out there, and uh, waiting for more than a year, maybe more than, say, at least 3 to 6 months to just to get a revert whether they're taking your book or not, and then a lot of waiting time is out there. Go, if you are confident about your content, if you know that your book is going to sell, go and take the self-publishing route, and probably for the next book you will have a traditional contract for you.
In fact, there's a story from Story Mirror only, that there's somebody I had met who is now published with Story Mirror. I don't want to take the name. And before she went forward with Story Mirror, she had gone to an agent. Now, even I had no idea that, because I did a lot of research into this. I surveyed different publishing houses and everything. So even I had no idea about this, that there were agents in the field. So she had been with an agent for 8 months, and that agent had charged her every month. So if anybody who's listening to this story, please listen to this carefully. 8 months she was with an agent, and the agent charged her monthly, in the hope that one day this particular big label traditional publishing house would give the opportunity. And she kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and she got fried. And then she finally went with Story Mirror, and then now I think she's published now. I'm not sure what the thing is, but yeah, I think she is. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
There
think
are
Srishti,
a lot of
yeah.
such stories. I mean, that's what I said. Keep, if you are a first-time author, particularly, there is no point in waiting for a reward from traditional publishers. They already have their bucket full in terms of their best-selling authors, plus the new content that they commission on their own. So, I mean, it's perfectly fine. I mean, so I don't know. There's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of taboo. People had put it out about self-publishing. कि अरे पैसा दे के publish किया है. But then understand, it's about the book which is going out in the market. Okay, it's about, I have started my business, I have put in my capital, I have invested in the book, and my product is out there in the market. So what's wrong with it?
Yeah, that's right. Right.
So I mean,
It's
why
a
this
fantastic
where we
model,
can publish?
right? It's a fantastic model for young writers out there. It's a fantastic model where they can progress from publishing online or blogs or platforms and go into actually having the experience of having the format, working with a format, creating a story and putting it out there. And based on that, going forward, I think it's a fantastic idea. I think I would like to close with the last question, which is the most important question. This is a purely theoretical question out there. I mean, this is open to everybody on the call. What do we need to do in India if everybody was listening to us right now? Everybody, all the politicians, the country, the bureaucrats, everybody is listening to us right now. What do we need to do? I'll start with as a writer, as a budding writer, what I thought is I went through diploma programs, creative writing programs, many programs that I came across in India. I didn't find anything good enough. The only thing that I found really good were international programs which are available online on in many platforms, and there are a lot of international writers from different countries who give out their knowledge about writing and creative writing, which I found very valuable, key insights and very deep and beautiful insights. I think India needs training programs. I think we need training centers. We need organizations that dedicate themselves to train and provide the syllabus for creative writing and book writing and novel writing, and treating it importantly, and going forward that way, and the art and craft of creative writing, that would really boost up things forward. And also we need a listing platform where the talent can be presented, like what Story Mirror is doing or Pratilipi is doing. We need more platforms where talent can be presented and there can be encouragement to young writers to come forward. Yeah.
So I think along with the training centers and all, it should be made part of the curriculum of school, because the seed need to be put in the initial stage only. And if the students, let's say youngsters, are into writing, then only they'll be able to pursue it further. Initial phases mein agar unhe pata hi nahi hai what creative writing is, then all of a sudden if you introduce it to them after the age of 14, 15, 16, it will be a new thing to them. I don't know, half of the students will automatically neglect it. So it should be a part of the curriculum since beginning, maybe from the first standard itself, so that they know what it is.
I think they should have an institute, like the way they have it for film and television. They can have an institute. Maybe uh, budding writers will join them as a full-time course and learn the elements, and they can sharpen their writing skills. So institute, I think, is a good idea.
Um,
Suraj?
See, I've learned everything on the job. I've learned every bit of writing, my craft. I always was a fan of just reading books. I used to read voraciously anything and everything I could get my hands on. And that was where the stories came in. Um, I've worked with a lot of writers under me, like, as in copywriters. Now there is a section uh, in my team which is called memers. So that's their job to just, write memes. Yeah. So um, there's a lot of learning happening on the job, and all I can say from my experience is you don't get into writing, or like learning the craft is essential. But if you have something to say, if you have there is an urge inside you to tell the story, or, oh, I have to share something, I have to tell something, you just gravitate towards it and you learn it. I Every person in my team in the last 5 years, in my marketing team, in my copy team, in everyone, their degrees have been LLB, BCom, too many BTechs. So the thing is, when you feel that urge of something to say and something to tell, you just gravitate towards it and you learn it anyhow. Same it's with you, Bharat. And you just learned it कि मेरे को एक I have to tell this story, मेरे को कुछ बताना है, मेरे को कुछ share करना है, and I'll just learn the way to do it. Sometimes for me that has been the best teacher. Would it help to have more programs or something like that? I agree with Srishti, having a formative base. I always tell even to my old school people, or even if I meet some politician, I wish in the education policy children are taught how to tell a story and do their taxes. Junk two subjects if you want, but like just teach us how to tell a story and how to do our taxes, and we'll be set for life in a lot of things. Uh, but aside from that, I would encourage people to just I mean, like, यार वो हाथ पैर गंदे करो, like fall down, scratch your knees, get up, and just that stubbornness teaches you a lot. I know 7 different forms of content writing right now, just because I was willing to be shamed, willing to just scrape my knees and everything. So passion over everything, that's what I'll say.
So, I mean, while, yeah, the point everybody is speaking about in terms of formalizing the writing structure, institutions, and everything is fine, and that's definitely required at a young age, where and particularly this era of AI. Okay, when we are talking about artificial intelligence, trust me, what we need more is a natural intelligence. And creativity, creative writing is something which is gonna develop that into the students, that into the young children. So obviously, getting it at a young age is definitely what is required, number one. Number two, from a writer's point of view, okay, once you have written something, what you look for is readers, okay. So from a policy level, we also need to take steps to encourage the habit of reading. And that's where I think as a country, we need an extensive network of libraries. We need a very vast, organized, backed by technology, a good network of libraries, which is gonna, I mean, a lot of time people don't read because they don't have access to it. Okay, I find I have met so many parents because we go and do so many book fairs in school. So we go and do sessions in school where parents actually stop kids from buying books. They would be okay, I mean, paying out 300, 400 rupees for a Starbucks coffee, but they'll not spend 200 rupees for a book. And this is a fact of life. And we have not, I'm not saying this on the basis of one or two incidences. When I'm saying this, which means I have gone through at least hundreds of such incidences. Okay. So if that's the constraint which is stopping kids from reading, I think if there's a good access to library and the network of libraries, and everybody, young, adult, senior citizens, everybody, I think you will see a huge increase in the number of readers in the country.
Right. And I think also it's short form content versus long form content. Since a book is 3.99, but it is a commitment of a month or 2 weeks, but short form content is just swipe down. So that is also, it's AI, it's short form content and all of this. So building a culture of writing, I think I couldn't agree more. It's very important. And I think the only person who can really do anything towards it right now is the government. The only entity which can, because
So
we
yeah,
have the whole effort.
the new education policy talks about creative writing and including creative writing, but as Suraj said, it has to be mandatory. It cannot be just one of those optional subjects which you take maybe to get grades or maybe just to do a tick in your mark sheet.
Right. And also creative writing is so good for development of the brain. It is so good for getting in touch with yourself. The techniques of creative writing, of knowing yourself, your own emotions and your own thoughts, and how that you ink your own emotions on the paper. So it's a very important. I think it should be mandatory. It's a beautiful process.
I think Hiten made a very valid point. So encouraging reading will naturally encourage writing also, I think. So better start encouraging reading. So writers will get a boost also, like. So I think encouraging reading is much more important than encouraging writing.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this town hall. Town hall as a concept is where noted people of society come together on one particular subject, brainstorm and understand and collaborate and give point of views, insight, and ideas to people who are targeted for that particular town hall. And this town hall was targeted to the budding writer of 2024, what he or she needs to keep in mind. And I think this has been a fulfilling experience for me. So I'm sure it would be a fulfilling experience for the writer who would be listening to this. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for coming together on this podcast.